right, fellas. Now, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis is official, and although the idea of this fight is nothing new, I think it was the last thing a lot of us were expecting to see. It is an official deal set to be broadcasted on Netflix with 10 3-minute rounds, but the kicker is it's an exhibition, a 200-pound Jake Paul versus a 135-pound Gervonta Davis. What could possibly go wrong? So in light of the news, as we always do, we've got to break it down our first impressions. What should we expect? And will this be the biggest fight of the year? But just before all of that, if you don't know me, my name's Glovezone, and I make boxing content to help keep you informed as it happens. So make sure to subscribe, and I will always keep you in the loop now. As I said before, the idea of Tank versus Paul is not new. This fight was already, once upon a time, signed sealed, but it wasn't delivered. Jake Paul was ringside at Tank versus Roach, and the reason he was there was to announce Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, although we all know what happened. Tank went and drew, and it seemed to momentarily ruin the fight, so Paul didn't rush into the ring to announce it. The fight went into doubt, everything was delayed. Paul went over and fought Chavez, and everyone thought Tank would rematch Lamont. But instead, he just found himself in some legal trouble. But now that's all seemed to be cleared up, and it's opened the door. For this to become official, if you're not new to the channel, you'd know we've talked about this before, and our channel was one of the first to mention this being a possibility. And did many of you call me mad for saying it could happen? Absolutely. But as what happens, a lot of the time the crystal ball eventually prevails. Although I really did expect Tank to rematch Lamont first, from a promotional standpoint, that's what it seemed like the Paul camp wanted him to do. And it made sense because selling a fight with Tank coming off a draw is a lot harder than selling a fight with him coming off a win. So over the last week, there's been news that Lamont Roach seemed to be moving on from the Tank fight. He was calling out Shakur and everyone else, so it was clear that something else was in the path of Davis, and we now found out what it was. So it's confirmed Jake versus Tank, saying that sounds ridiculous, and this is Mayweather versus Logan, round 2. But the star boxer, time is actually within his prime now. Although this fight makes no sense. Boxing-wise, it makes complete sense. Business and promotional-wise, that's what this fight will be. I don't expect it to be a thriller in the ring, but what I do expect it to be is an insane build-up, just a ludicrous promotion. That's exactly how they sold us Paul versus Tyson. And the build-up was so big and so crazy, with so many viral moments. It made everyone I knew tune in, even if they didn't watch boxing, and this will be much of the same. I often trash Paul, but the one thing he's good at is marketing, and this will be a complete lesson in it. They obviously couldn't secure the Joshua fight yet, so if you can't get Joshua for the moment, why? Not have your entree be the next biggest name in the sport, outside of Canelo and Joshua. And being an exhibition, this bout will be no risk for Jake Paul. He can't cop an L here because there's no decision in an exhibition. There's no winner. And there's no loser for Paul. This is a risk-free way of only elevating his name further. There will be mad talk in the build-up. But because of the constraints about it being an exhibition, probably both of them know they can't really do anything. And I'm not calling the fight rigged because it's not. It's just an exhibition. It's meant to be for entertainment. That's how these fights go. There's no winner or loser. I look at this fight similar to, say, Roy Jones versus Tyson. They did go at it a bit, but it was an exhibition with rules in place. And I assume with this fight, there are going to be similar parameters in place. The size difference is just too big. We'll probably end up seeing something for Paul where he rides, with the idea through this promotion that just getting in the ring with Gervonta Davis itself is a win. After the fight, he'll talk about how he went toe-to-toe with one of the baddest knockout artists in boxing, disregarding the fact that he is 70 pounds lighter, and that this fight's an exhibition. But not only will Paul win out of this, Tank will too, although Tank has a tattoo on the back of his neck saying strap season, referring to him wanting to collect all the titles. His career really has been the opposite. This is far from the legacy fights us boxing fans want to see him take, but this fight will be a bigger check than probably all those legacy fights combined. Simply, this is the largest stage he could be on. And with Paul as a dance partner, it will result easily in the biggest event of the year. Now we've been told again and again that Crawford versus Canelo will be the biggest fight of the year. Although that is very self-proclaimed, this event will simply eclipse that event completely. And I don't like saying that. But it's true. Crawford versus Canelo on Netflix will be watched by the casual, but Tank versus Paul will be watched by everyone. And I almost don't even want to try and break down the fight itself because I don't think we will see either Going 100% because it's an exhibition. I would love to be proved otherwise with contractual proof saying they can really go at it, but I'm expecting 10 rounds of mouthing off Tank, jabbing the body, and Paul missing his hooks, with both celebrating at the end of the fight and both of them going laughing to the bank. I honestly would love to see the two go toe-to-toe and try to knock each other out. It would be interesting to see. But love or hate the idea of this fight you're going to be watching, the build-up will be big. It will definitely live up to its purpose as an entertainment product. But the tricky question to answer is, will this be good for boxing? Will this fight be a positive thing for the sport? And like the Tyson fight prior, it's complicated. The main positive sticking point around these sorts of fights is it brings a different audience to the sport that usually wouldn't watch. It inspires kids who wouldn't watch otherwise to tune in and love boxing. I do question, though, at this point, how much of a say child audience Paul has. He did once upon a time, but he was a famous YouTuber. When I was in high school, he hasn't really been known as a YouTuber. For really half a decade at this point, he seemingly gave it up once he started boxing, so the kids who now know him probably just know him from all this influence in boxing. I was of the generation which didn't like him from his vlogs. He seemed like a bit of a tosser, and we wanted to see Deji knock him out. But now I don't really get it. Do people just think he's a bit of a tosser still and want to see him knocked out? That's the trick, which is going, I don't think it's really he's a YouTuber versus Gervonta Davis. He's more like a Butterbean versus Davis. At this point, he's a YouTuber who reinvented himself as an oddity in the boxing world, but compared to Butterbean, he has an infinitely bigger profile these fights, though. Bottom line, do draw a different audience, and that should be applauded somewhat. But at the same time, this is the content. They see this as the modern representation of the sweet science. And after those people see these sorts of performances, it's pretty easy to see how they come to the conclusion that the sport is dying. These sorts of exhibition-style bouts are closer to what we normally see with wrestling. It is incredibly smart marketing and really incredibly smart business, but it does devalue the rest of boxing. True skills and world titles don't seem to mean as much as long as you can get the eyes on you climbing the ranks. Building a career winning titles is less valued than a bloke who is known for vlogs, switches lanes, and says he's one of the greats without actually any proof. But really, that's just a reflection of the modern day in general. What makes a sport turn is money. And in the modern day, it seems to be less about greatness and more about how much engagement you can pull, although we're still a few months away, and a lot can happen. So I guess we have to wait and see if this actually comes true. Although when things do happen, I will always have you covered. But now I want to hear what you think, your thoughts on this huge announcement, and how you see this all going down. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. I love reading them all. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really does a ton to help the channel. Thanks for watching, fellas, and I'll catch you in the next one.